What is up, Redheads? It's your boy Mike Holland at MC34, bringing you an interesting live before lock here on a Monday holiday. Thank you guys for joining us. If you're new to live before lock, we're going to break down. There's only 3 games on this slate. We're going to break it all down for you, and we'd love to hear your questions, your interaction. All you have to do is just be subscribed. So make sure you hit the subscribe button to ask the question. Toss me like 2v2s, like last man in questions, really anything you can think of to help you get this bread. So, having said that, thanks to our guy at Fantasy Nav, Eric is pushing buttons for this 10K to first. 10K, $10,000. As you can tell, Eric is excited, and I'm sure many of you out there are excited to try to get a piece of that pie tonight, which is going to be pretty epic. The start time is pretty late, so we're going on a couple hours before, really 3 hours before tip here. Excited to be here on Monday, and if you've been following our shows, we're excited to be partnered up with BracketBids this tournament season. So if you haven't heard of them, we've been talking about them a lot. We have partnered up with them. They are changing the game when it comes to tournament time. So if you're filling out a bracket, you will be filling out a bracket. You should head over to BracketBids or download the BracketBids app. As you can see on the scroll on the bottom, www.bracketbids.com. Use the promo code BREAD for 40% off your league activation fees. If you didn't check it out last night, we did a Sunday recap show. Jay did an awesome job. I was not around to be there with him, but he did a great job breaking down all the news and happenings from the college basketball world. So go back and check out that show as well. So got some comments popping in here. Jason B saying good evening. We've got Jim. Always appreciate your shows and your insights. What's up, Jim? I don't know if we've maybe hadn't heard from you in a while. Brock, what's up, Brock? Finally made it for a live show. Appreciate you jumping in here, Brock. It's gonna be a fun one tonight because you get these 3-game slates, and when you look at an overview, you look at the context of the slate, and you've got the first game, right? That's projected to be a blowout. You got Virginia, which is not a lot of fun to roster. You've got the solid game right there in the middle, and then an elite game, of course, at the very end of the night. So looking at it as a whole, there's some really great spin-up options, really good value options. So stars and scrubs probably going to be plenty popular tonight. How do we get different for 10K? You got to beat, 1,700 teams? As Corey jumps in here, let's go 10K time squad. Absolutely. What's the contrarian play? And Corey's definitely ready to split some bread with the one and done family. Appreciate you jumping in here, Corey. Hope everybody's had a wonderful day today. We're coming down the home stretch here, so looking forward to diving right in this thing. Make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons. I think we're closing in on 1,350 subs. Would love to pick up a few today. If you guys could do that for us, we would really appreciate it. So, having said that, we'll run down these 3 games here. Make sure you ask those questions after you hit the subscribe button, or give me your comments. Let me know, if I'm wrong on a take, and, if you're taking a stand the opposite way. Love to chat about it and see how we can make this happen as Jay jumps in with the fire emojis. So we'll give him a little something. And Jeremy jumping in, a pleasant surprise. What's up, Jeremy? Slide chat is popping, man. Y'all are excited to win this $10,000. So if you don't mind, I'd love to win that $10,000. And if you guys want to take second, that's good by me. So, all right, we'll dive right into this thing. First game, mentioned it earlier, Duke -15 at Virginia, 131 implied total. This is KenPom metrics. Both teams pretty slow, 284th in tempo for Duke. Virginia sitting at 362. So not a lot of possessions going to be had in this game. Duke still is implied for 73 points because they are the 3rd most effective offense in the country, adjusted per 100 possessions. Virginia's defense is 115th, which is one of the worst in the Power 5 rankings here. They're giving up nearly 113 points per 100 possessions. And, of course, we have a Cooper flag on the slate in an ugly game environment. So for tournaments, what do? You have the value plays. Do you play them? These 11K. That's a big number on a small slate. Raw points do matter on small slates. He has to probably get to at least, at a minimum, 35 to 38 to get you there. 40 plus obviously feels a lot more comfortable. With only 3 games on the slate, though, a 40 is probably plenty good from him here. So, well, the one thing that we want is we want the game to stay close if you're rostering Flag. And with limited possessions, right? I mean, this is on the road at Virginia. I would expect them to come out with a little bit of pop, right? So I definitely love him for tournament settings. I can't decide right now. I'm probably 50-50, usually taking the Zach Edey, Janai Broom. I'm a guy that plays a lot of lineups, so I'm probably going to split my exposure right down the middle. That's just kind of, you can play him or you can fade him 100%. So as of right now, I'm probably 50-50. I'll probably get closer to 25%, honestly. Just kind of when you start playing around with different things. So Cooper Flag, definitely an awesome tournament play. Let me know in the comments what you guys are doing with Cooper Flag tonight. If you're jumping on it, or you're gonna, you got Hawkins down here, Omir down here that are a little bit cheaper that have 40 fantasy point upside. So let me know in the comments what you guys are going to do with Cooper Flag. Next up here on Duke, you got Con Knipple. He's 6,800. GPP only for me. Like, he has to get hot from the field. Anytime he kind of gets these like big fantasy point productions, he's hitting 4+ 3-pointers. So he's got to shoot it well. Not much ancillary production to go with it. He has a little bit of rebounding upside, but it's not really something you can count on. So at 6,800, we're looking for 4x plus, obviously. So he's really got to knock down his 3-pointers in this spot here. Tyrese Proctor, $100 cheaper, too expensive for my blood in tournaments. Especially for this game environment. And I know he's played really well recently, 36, 28, 31 fantasy points, but it's just kind of hard to believe that he's going to continue flame throwing. 58% from the field in those 3 games, 54% from 3. So just more of a floor guy. I'd expect his shooting percentages to take a slight dip on the road here. But the minutes are going to be safe, 28 plus at a minimum, even in a blowout. So I think Proctor for like double ups and like cash type games. I think he's a fine play here. James at 6,200. Where's the tournament upside? I guess here, just kind of another cash game type play for me. Like, you need 25 fantasy points for 4x, and he's really only exceeded that in 3 of the last 15 games. That 14% shot rate is really taking me off of him in tournaments. I don't really have any interest. It's kind of go all the way up here at Duke, maybe a shot at Knipple, and then there's a couple of guys here at the bottom that you can maybe look at, but Zion James, like, his season high is obviously it's 29 minutes here, so he's only gotten there once, so you're not going to get like this huge minutes game from James, but Maluach down here at 6,100, nearly a fantasy point per minute type player. Minutes are a problem though. He can foul, but he's live for tournaments. I mean, he's coming off 26.5 at 33 fantasy points. That was against Stanford and Cal. He has an elite offensive rating. I think it's top 5 in the country. It might be 3rd, actually, last I checked earlier today. Elite shot blocker. He needs help from others to get there offensively. That's not something that I love. Now, if you told me he's going to get 5 blocks, right, and 5 lobs, then, might be working with something at 6,100. But for me, it's like, man, too many things have to go right for Maluach to really pay off 6,100. So I don't know that I'm going to get to him. So let me know if you guys are going. I definitely think he's a tournament play. I just don't think I'm going to be using him. So let me know in the chat what you guys are doing with Maluach here. Malik Brown is kind of the interesting piece. Him and Mason Gillis are playing, 14 to 20 type minutes, depending on fouls and things like that. Like, he's super solid off the bench. The thing is, you hate the 6% shot rate. But really his scoring is like a bonus because he's really getting there with rebounds and stocks. He can actually get you a couple of assists too, but on this slate, he's more of a secondary type value option where if you're playing like 3 value pieces to get like 3 studs or, he's kind of interesting as a secondary. So on that Duke side here, that's pretty much wraps it up for me. Jason B saying UVA played over their heads a couple of Tuesdays ago. Can they do it again? Caleb Foster banking a blowout. And Ryan jumping in saying, feels like a good night for another takedown. Yeah, Ryan, congrats the other night, man. And a shout out to Cam. He won our one and done invitational that we started back up. We'll try to do that every Saturday. Maybe even some midweek slates here. So as Eric's jumping in saying, if you're thinking maybe Flag gets into foul trouble, you're playing Malik Brown. So a lot of the times on 3-game slates, you kind of have to play the what's going to happen, right? You don't necessarily have to do that on 9, 10, 11, 12 game slates, right? That's more, you're more looking at the smaller slates whenever you're choosing different type of game theories to go by. So that'll wrap up the Duke side. We'll flip it over to this ugly Virginia side. Duke, 58 implied points, fourth in defensive efficiency is Duke. Virginia is also 110th in bench minutes used, although it's been a little more condensed recently. I don't know that I'm interested in really anybody on this side. Now, because it's a 3-game slate, you have to look at these guys like McNeely at 7,100. He's at home. Two things that we know he's going to do. He's going to log 30 plus minutes and he's going to take 10 plus shots at least. So there's upside for, a little bit more at this price point, but I just don't love the matchup. So for me, like, he's rendered more of like a cash option. Same thing with Andrew Rohde. Now he's kind of the opposite McNeely. Like, he's not going to take as many shots, so he's got to be pretty effective in the limited shots that he does take. But he does produce in other areas, but still more of a cross off for me on McNeely and Rohde at this $7K price tag. Maybe if they were closer to $6K, I would have some interest here. Blake Buchanan's at 6,600. Started the last 5 games. I mean, he logged 30 plus minutes in 3 of them. Just very reliant on rebounding and producing stocks. So I don't love the spot against this front court. You can consider him as like a contrarian tourney type play in case he has, you feel like he has a solid game here. But I'll just say I bid you good luck, and if you win with Blake Buchanan in your lineup, then I'll just move on to the next slate here. Someone that I find interesting, only if he starts, right, is Elijah Saunders. He's 5,700, so he came back from the foot injury a couple of games ago. Came off the bench, 11 minutes, and he played 18 minutes. So we're starting to see a little bit of a trend. I wish we had one more game of data where he got into the 20s to feel comfortable, because before that he was playing 30 minutes and solid rates for this team. So an interesting tournament option. I think he's going to go very overlooked here. It's kind of unclear what his role is right now that he's back. Like, is he stuck in like a high teens, low 20s type minutes? Or are they ramping him back up to where we could see 26, 27 minutes from him tonight? So I just feel like when you're playing against this many teams, you got to try and find that one piece that's going to be completely different. Elijah Saunders, if he's in the starting lineup, makes it a little interesting in tournaments. Day-Day Ames at 5,600. I had him the other night when he went crazy, but pretty much going to slot him into the kind of the McNeely Rohde category, even though he's cheaper than those guys. But this is just a much different mashup than we've seen him do. He's been hot lately, but when he plays tier A type teams, and Duke is one of the 2 best teams in the country, he is not taking care of the ball. His turnover rate's like over 25% in tier A games on KenPom. So I don't have a lot of love for Day-Day Ames at the price tag. And then when you factor in, he's probably going to turn it over a little bit here. Like, you need everything to go right for him here. Jacob Kofi at 5,400. Now that his role's kind of reduced back a little bit now that Saunders is back, just another guy in that front court there. But his rates are solid across the board, but he's just hard to trust minutes-wise. Yes, he does start. This could be an issue, though, because he averages about 5 fouls per 40 minutes. So could we see early foul trouble from him? Potentially, right? So I don't think I can use Kofi today, although he is tournament viable. The one guy that I'm thinking about, if I'm going like full starts and scrubs, is Anthony Robinson. Feels gross. He's 3,400, but nice producer per minute. The thing is, like, he's just limited run. Like, if it's a blowout, you might get to 20 minutes, but you're typically just going to get a 14 to 18 minute roll out of him. And going up against the Duke front court, like, that's just, Malik Brown is, one of those guys that can block your shot, really tough on the glass. You got Maluach, tough on the glass. Cooper Flagg, obviously, a generational type athlete. So, I mean, he's not a comfortable click, but at 3,400, I feel he's kind of interesting here. So, obviously not a lot to love here on the Virginia side when you're implied for 58 points. But if you find the one guy that goes for like 4.5x, I just don't know if there is going to be a guy that gets to 4.5x here. So let's jump in here. Shout out to Cam from Germany. Yep. Shout out to Cam. So we fade and flag, late to the party, Kearney. What's up, Kearney? I know it's a little early right now. As of right now, I'm probably 50-50. But I play a lot of tournaments, so probably splitting my exposure right now. Kearney is kind of what we talked about. Let me know what you guys are doing in the comments. Jeremy, Jason, Kearney, let me know what you're doing. Brock, let me know what you're doing, man, with Cooper Flagg. He's obviously one of the keys to the slate. That's some of these smaller slates, it's always like that. You have the one guy that has 60 fantasy point type ceiling. So as we dive in here, Kearney saying gotcha on it. Yeah, let me know what you guys are doing with him. As of right now, I'm 50-50 in tournaments. If I'm playing single entry, a little bit tougher to play him there. A little bit tougher, but we have the value to get there. So we'll flip it over to the next game here. You guys make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons. We're headed to 1,400 subs, so help us get there. We would absolutely appreciate that. And with that, this next game here, Kansas State +2 at Utah, 148 implied total. Decent tempo here. I mean, Kansas State's 184th, but they're getting paced up by Utah is in the top 100. Kansas State, 73 implied total here on KenPom. Utah's, I would say they're poor defensively. I wouldn't say, they're the worst, but they're 15th in the Big 12 in defensive efficiency. Now, it is kind of weird because when you look at like what they're giving up from the field, it's not that bad. But what they are giving up is a bunch of stocks. Like this could be an absolute stock party for Kansas State. Utah's last in opponent shot blocking percentage and 13th in steal percentage within the conference and during conference play. So there's an opportunity for guys to rack up some stocks here on the steals end and the blocks end. And also the thing that you left from Kansas State, so you know who's going to be on the court. They're 340th in bench minutes used. And that leads me right to one of my favorite plays of the slate. And that's going to be Coleman Hawkins at 9K. I just think he's a great play. Even though he struggled in the last two games, he's going to play big minutes. Utah's coming off of this win over Kansas, riding a high here, right? Kansas State's coming through. And he just does everything. I mean, he's what you like on a smaller slate. Like you want this type of guy with a big ceiling that has rates across the board and is going to play max type minutes. So 23% usage rate, 24% combined rebounding rate, 24% assist rate, 4% block, and 3% steal rate. So nearly a 7% combined stock rate. So I really like him here. He's going to be able to facilitate offense. He's going to be able to create his own offense. He's going to be able to rack up some stocks. I would imagine he's going to be super popular in all settings. So Coleman Hawkins here, man, at 9K, just looks like a really, really good play here. Next up is old Dougie McBuckets here at 7,700. He's been pretty good lately, and I think Tang has kind of figured out that he has to play max minutes. We've talked about that before. But 30-plus fantasy points in 4 straight. He's coming off a couple of 40-plus fantasy point efforts in there, so he's locking nearly every single minute. 15-plus field goal attempts in the last 3. His assist upside is there. So, yeah, Dougie McBucket's kind of in a weird like price point, right? If you're going full stars and scrubs, he's kind of like just at 7,700. He's kind of in no man's land, it feels like. So, he had 5 steals a couple of games ago. You love that profile as far as stocks, and Kansas State should be able to get their hands on balls here. So definitely don't mind Doug McDaniel here. David N'Guessan here at 6,900. Kind of a pivot off of Coleman Hawkins. I'll kind of talk about that when we talk about like some core plays and building tournaments, but just kind of more of a cash target for me. But because it is such a small slate and he's a direct pivot from Coleman Hawkins, I think he is playable in tournaments for sure. So I'll have some exposure to him in some of my tournaments at 6,900. Max Jones has just been a solid mid-tier option for the last like couple of weeks here. He's 5,900. Before he had the poor game against BYU last time out, 21, 22, 31, 25 fantasy points. A little bit of tourney upside there, but probably prefer him in more of like single entry, more of like double ups type scenarios here. So Max Jones, 5,900, just a solid price tag, and you probably know what you're getting with him. Brendan Howson at 4,800, completely shot the pennant. Like has to hit his threes to give you any type of chance in the tournament. Could he do it? I mean, absolutely. We've seen him do it before. He's like this kind of play where it's going to go unowned. If he hits 4 or 5 threes and gets hot, like he could absolutely win you $10,000. Now, I don't know that I'm going to click him because we've kind of seen what the guards around him are doing. Like McDaniel is just so heavily involved in the offense. Max Jones is kind of doing his thing. And you got CJ Jones there lurking in the backcourt as well. And at 4,100, CJ Jones, he's a 20-minute type budget option for you, kind of in the secondary value player pool for me. Would really help out. Some guys got into some foul trouble. Obviously, we can get him up a little bit more than the 20 minutes, but his rates are decent across the board. Just more of a secondary type value play, more of a game theory type play here. So we'll flip it over to the Utah side here. They're implied for 75. They're coming off, like I said, that big home win over Kansas. Utah, man, they've been pretty good on the glass. They out-rebounded Kansas by 12 in that game on Saturday, and they had 10 more on the offensive glass. So, they didn't shoot better than Kansas, but they out-rebounded and out-hustled them. And that's an area that we've seen K-State kind of struggle in. So I think some of these bigs for Utah could have nice games. Now, the thing about Utah, and everybody I'm sure knows this, is that they play everybody. It's, they're 11th in bench minutes. So it's going to get annoying trying to figure out, like, can we get those extra 3 to 4 minutes out of the guys that we click their name? Some of these guys are going to get 22 minutes. Some of these guys are going to get 28 minutes. The guy that is going to get 30 plus is Gabe Madsen. He's sitting here at 6,400, and he's kind of like a souped up Brendan Hawson. Slightly better peripheral upside. He's got that huge shot rate, 31%. He doesn't foul. He went bonkers against Kansas and Cincinnati. Like, he knows how to stay on the floor. Great shooter. I think the game log watchers, people coming in from NFL and NBA, like, they kind of see that at 6,400 at home and a nice total. They're thinking, hey, like, if he keeps it going, right, we're in the money on this thing. But his floor is pretty weak, and I say that because I'm a tournament player, and I know he's like a boom bust guy. Like, if he is not stroking it, he can absolutely bury your lineup for like 13 fantasy points. So Gabe Madsen, like, gotta shoot it well from the field. Ezra Asar here at 5,800. He's kind of one of these volatile front court pieces. I mean, I love his rates: 27% usage rate, 24% shot rate, a 5% combined stock rate. Like, he had the explosive game against Baylor. He also had one against BYU. But really, everybody on this side, you can make a case for in tournaments. Because the thing is, you just don't know exactly if he's going to get 22 minutes or is he going to get 28. So that's the annoying part. Lawson Lovering, kind of in that same conversation. He's $500 cheaper at 5,300. He is a really good fantasy per minute producer, but he just doesn't exceed 25 minutes, but he does profile well on the glass against these guys. 25 fantasy point upside would be nearly 5x. So definitely tourney worthy here for Lawson Lovering. And I mean, we got a few more options in this front court to talk about. Jake Wallen's playing like this, kind of like this junkyard dog type role, right? He's really the only guy outside of Madsen that is going to be guaranteed for like 27 plus type minutes. He's shooting 41% from 3 in conference. He's a good rebounder, a little bit of stock upside here. Lives in the 14 to 20 fantasy point type range, but he had some breakouts here against TCU, Oklahoma State. In the last game against Kansas, 5x plus for this price tag that he's out. So I think I'd much rather take shots on Asar or Lovering than I am some Jake Wallen. I think Jake's probably a little more suitable for cash here. So, he had the he had the sneak attack double against Kansas here. So, just I don't think he's going to be posting a double here. If he does, like, you guys are going to win some money. Mike Sheriff Jumps, Mongolian Mike here at 4,500. Another good value saver. Like, didn't shoot the ball well against Kansas. 3 for 12 from the field, 2 for 10 from 3, but he somehow still played 30 minutes, which I thought was really interesting. He's a versatile guard. Got some assist upside, some stock upside, but he's just not very good when he plays like top tier teams, as we saw with Kansas. His offensive rating is like 93 against tier A plus B opponents, and he's shooting 41% from the field. So, I mean, if he's going to play 30 minutes, right, he does enough outside of shooting to where he can still get there. And if he makes his shots, yes, he does have absolute tournament winning type upside. And then Keanu Dawes here at 4,300, over a fantasy point per minute producer. Huge rebounding rate for him, a 5% combined stock rate. He does foul often, but I mean, really, does that matter? Because he's only going to play 15 to 20 type minutes anyway. And that could be enough on the 3-game slate to be on a winner. Like, if Asar or Lovering experience a little bit of foul trouble, a little bit of a boost there, but that's not really what K-State does. Like, they don't get to the free throw line at 306th in the country in free throw rate. So I don't expect Asar or Lovering to really be in that foul trouble. But he's just an interesting secondary value type click here. So let's jump into the let's jump into the chat here. Brock saying playing flag on a 3-gamer. But for my GPP lineup, I think I'm getting a little risky with that one, fading the 2 big money guys. Okay. Doug the dog being back. And Darren, what's up, Darren? How you doing, man? Good to see you out there, Darren. Let me know what you guys think about this the second game here. I think it's plenty juicy. The pricing is nice. You got some good profiles for these teams against each other. I think everybody's obviously going to try to jam in this last game. So, I think being overloaded on this game is definitely interesting from a contrarian tournament style. So, looks like we're up to 1,345 subs. Make sure you guys subscribe to get in the mix and get your questions answered or your comments. Toss in some comments in there. We got one more game to break down here. That is the juicy one of the night, and then we'll get to the cores and get you guys out of here. Even though we're a couple hours away from lock, so some time to maybe throw in some more lineups if they keep. The big tournament today for 10K filled by like 1 o'clock Central. So I don't know. Maybe we could have gotten a 20K to first tonight. But regardless, we'll jump into this Arizona +1 at Baylor. 153 implied total. This is a pace-up spot for Baylor at home. Arizona 43rd in tempo. Baylor 297th. Arizona 76 implied points here. They're coming off the tough home loss to Houston. For Baylor, like middle of the road in the Big 12 defensively. There's an opportunity here for Arizona to rack up some blocks and some assists. Baylor's been getting their shot blocked at a pretty high clip in conference play. And Baylor's been giving up nearly a 60% assist rate. So 3 out of every 5 baskets that are made are being assisted. So you definitely like that for fantasy production here. Caleb Love, obviously 7,900, and the other main talking point of the slate here, shot 1 for 8 from 3 and still scored 30 fantasy points against Houston. This is a much softer matchup. It is on the road, though, so could he shoot 1 for 8 from 3? I would not be surprised, but he's going to take 15 field goals. Even if he gets you 30 at 7,900, like that's like, it feels like worst case scenario, but we've seen worse from Caleb Love. Baylor has struggled a bit containing the 3-ball, a little bit more than what they were in the non-con. So could Caleb Love knock down 3 or 4 threes here? I think he could, and I think he's going to be on, unfortunately, a lot of my lineups because I'm looking for maximum pain. So let me know in the chat what you guys are doing with Caleb Love or any questions about this Arizona side here. KJ Lewis at 7,400. Oh, man. Max price KJ Lewis. I love his game. A lot of that upside, though, at 7,400 is taken out. Now, I know he's been 25-plus fantasy points in 6 of the last 7. The rates across the board are pretty solid. When Love is $500 more, and then you got all these forwards that are a little bit cheaper, and that no man's land of 7,400 where Doug McDaniel's at, it makes it really hard to get to KJ Lewis. But I think he's interesting for tournaments for sure. Jaden Bradley's more of like your cash play at 7,200. He's going to play pretty much every minute here. I think he is in play for tournaments because of the context of the slate, right? It's a 3-gamer. You don't want to miss out on a 4.5x showing from Jaden Bradley, which is absolutely in the realm of possibilities. He's reached back and gone into the mid-30s before. So I don't know. It's just kind of tough to think of him as anything more than like a floor type play. I think the biggest question for this Arizona side is what to do with the front court because Townsend's back. We got Vesar, we got Awaka, Carter Bryant's in the mix. All that being said, you got the 3 guards that are going to have the ball in their hands a lot. So with Townsend back, it's gotten pretty messy. One of these guys could easily crack 4x plus. I think you need the almanac to kind of be safe to know which one it is. I think I prefer Henry Vesar here. Awaka starts, right? Amir draws nearly 6 fouls for 40. Could we see him get into foul trouble and then Vesar come out? I love his rates. I love his game. Edgecombe also puts a lot of pressure on the defense. So could we see one of Awaka get into foul trouble early? I think that's absolutely a possibility here. I think of all these guys, like it would not shock me if one of these guys went for 5x. It's just like which one? It wouldn't surprise me too if Awaka stayed out of foul trouble and had a massive double-double. So Carter Bryant's actually been playing really well too down the stretch. So yeah, all tournament viable. Maybe just put your blindfold on and pick one. And then of course we have the 3K tournament as well, which I got a couple of lineups in there. Probably will get more going in that one a little bit later here. So we got some people jumping in. Tubby saying this is a tough one, really. Yeah, it's a tougher slate. Like Cats forwards better when Townsend. Yeah, Darren, absolutely, man, 100%. Tubby, a whole lot of love on the slate. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of love on this slate. There's going to be probably 2 loves in every lineup for me, unfortunately. And Kearney saying the Sharks took all the entries. Yeah, absolutely, man. All right, so we'll wrap up this Baylor side real quick. Baylor implied for 77 points. It's a pace-up spot for them. Arizona's been really solid defensively. They're up to 12th in defensive efficiency. The one thing you do love about Baylor, 252nd in bench minutes, getting even more condensed with Josh Ojuwana out for the year. So that has really, really forced Norchad here to move back to the 5, which, for his entire career, he's pretty much played there. I think it opens up Baylor's offense too, putting him at the 5. So I think he can absolutely wreak havoc on the slate if he stays out of foul trouble. If he stays out of foul trouble, he's going to play 35 minutes, pretty much a lock for a double-double. Raw points are going to matter on the slate. I just think he's a great spend-up option as well. So you have Flag at the very top. You have Omir here at 9,500, and you have Coleman Hawkins at 9K. All those guys, I could easily see all 3 getting to 40 fantasy points. I could also see Duke blowing out Virginia, Norchad getting into foul trouble, and Coleman Hawkins going full Coleman Hawkins. So there's a lot of those guys on the slate along with Caleb Love. So it's going to be a dramatic slate, it feels like. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be clicking Norchad's name a bunch tonight. VJ Edgecombe, I think, is a great pivot, even though he's not the same position. He's more of a pivot as far as the team here. 40 plus fantasy upside. I mean, the game logs, right? Like he's got a solid floor with upside for 40 plus. So we've seen him reach back and get to 40, even 44 in the last 2-3 weeks. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be using some Edgecombe here, especially that he has a 20% plus shot rate, rebounding rate, assist rate, and then a 7% combined stock rate. So yeah, VJ Edgecombe I think is a really good play. Rob Wright, it's smart that they're starting him now at 6,300 though, with everybody in. It just kind of a solid mid-tier option. I think he does have some boom bust potential for tournaments and can be a little sneaky for tournaments because a lot of the priority on the Baylor side will be to go all the way down to the bottom and then take either Omir or Edgecombe up at the top, which doesn't leave a lot of room for Rob Wright here. I feel like this mid-tier is going to go pretty under-owned from like the 6 to 8K range. Really 7.8, right? Caleb Love's going to be very popular, but a lot of those guys, Doug McDaniel, I don't know if they're going to be very popular. So Rob Wright, yeah, for tournaments, why not? I just don't think you can play Jeremy Roach or Langston Love. Like Roach, unfortunately, kind of fallen off a cliff here. And didn't start last game, and that was more for, I would think, size purposes. They started Jalen Celestine. But he's a real good real-life bench piece for them. He's just not doing enough. He doesn't have the rates to support 5,200. So I think we'll see him down the 4K range not too long here. But Langston Love sitting here at 4,400 is a absolute lock, an elite value play. This guy, if he could just ever get over the injuries, he would just be an awesome 7K player. Playing huge minutes. He's producing. I would imagine he's the most popular player on the slate. The minutes have ticked up. It's just he's doing everything. You'd like to see a little bit more on the shot rate side, but he's involved all over the place. So, yeah, I definitely going to be locking in Langston Love tonight. Jaden Nunn kind of talking about Roach, like these backcourt minutes. It's like Edgecombe's playing all the minutes. Langston Love is now playing all the minutes. Rob Wright is now playing 35 minutes. So really, you're left with 20 minutes for 15 to 20 minutes for Nunn and 15 to 20 minutes for Roach. So I'm pretty much going to cross off Jaden Nunn and Roach. I don't think they're playable here. I just don't see it even in these large field tournaments. So Jalen Celestine, man, at 3,900. Awesome value play. I would imagine that he continues to start at the 4 spot for them. He's kind of like a 6-7 stretch guy, right? Like he has the ability to hit threes. He has the ability to grab some boards. He's coming off 32 minutes. I don't know that that's I don't know that is his role. I think he's probably more of a 25-minute type role here for them. But for a starter, 25 minutes in a pace-up spot at home for a guy that shoots threes and can grab boards, yeah, I mean, he should project out pretty nice here. So I definitely like me some Celestine. I think I'll have some lineups where I play one of the studs, Amir and Edgecombe, with Langston Love and Celestine. I mean, get three of these guys in here and run it back with a Caleb Love. You got half of your lineup pretty much built. And then you need to decide whether or not you want to take a shot at one of the forwards and then kind of go into that second game that we talked about, and pick some Utah pieces as well as some K-State pieces. So that's more, talking roster construction and things like that. But yeah, you have to love this Baylor side. The team total, the way that Celestine and Langston Love are priced, and then you just love the spot for Amir and then Edgecombe just as heavy usage guys here. So see you guys out there. This is the end of three game slate here. Couple of hours till lock. Just remember, hit the subscribe button so you can get into the chat. Chat's been on fire right now. You can ask your questions. We can get into these cores and we can get this show closed out. So for the old core four here, just gonna have one, and then we'll talk about some pivots here. We have to decide what we're doing up at the very top. So I think for me, I'm paying up for Amir and Hawkins in tournaments. I love this spot. Amir doesn't foul. He's going to give you 35 to 40 fantasy points. Coleman Hawkins, this spot, the projection, the stock upside that he has against the Utah team that just gives up stocks, the double-double potential. I mean, this is a good spot for him. Caleb Love, like he had 30 fantasy points against Houston and didn't shoot the ball well. Like even if he shoots 40% from the field tonight at 7,900, he's going to play 37 plus minutes. He's just in such a good spot at 7,900. And then you got to go with the other love here, Langston Love, 4,400. Just, I mean, gonna play 30 plus minutes. Just too good to pass up at 4,400. Now, I think where you can kind of get interesting here is by let's say you want to go from Amir and you want to play Cooper Flag, right? It's a $1,500 difference to get there. At that point, I think in tournaments, I am looking at shifting Coleman Hawkins down to David and Gesson at 6,900 to kind of make up for that difference that you're looking at. Because it's going to be really tough to play Cooper Flag with one of these other studs unless you're using like three other value pieces. And obviously Celestine's there, right? So that's one, right? Can we figure out and find out who's going to be the third guy? You want to use a Mike Sheriff Jumps. You want to take a shot on, somebody like CJ Jones. You want to take a shot on Anthony Robinson. Those are the guys that can make it viable to get up to Cooper Flag and another big time stud. So we'll jump in the comments right here. Darren saying fading Rob right third. So that means he'll be a solid play because I always miss on him. Absolutely, man. So appreciate all the comments. Yeah, good luck, everybody, tonight. Remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons out there. We're bringing you all kinds of content. We'll be back later this week. We'll probably preview the Wednesday slate. I'm not sure if we're going to do anything for tomorrow's slate. Maybe. You never know. We didn't know we were going to do this today till the last minute, so here we are. And then make sure you go over to BracketBids.com or download the BracketBids app. We've partnered up with them, and it's just a great way to fill out your bracket and do some auction type stuff. Remember to type in the promo code BREAD to get 40% off your league activation fees. Just want to shout out some of our commenters tonight. We got Tubby, Jason B, Kearney, Brock, Jeremy, Darren E, Ryan, Jay, Corey, Jim H, and then of course my producer at Fantasy Nav, who's rocking it out. Ryan jumping in here saying thanks. Tommy, what's up, Tommy? Absolutely. Let's see, Darren. Yep, GMG, of course. Darren jumping in with that for sure. So, Ryan, can you play? Yeah, absolutely. I'll be playing a lot of Langston Love and Celestine together, along with one of Baylor's studs. Running it back with Love on the other side, running it back with maybe one of the forwards, and then going into that second game and trying to dig out, the 5.3 forward from Utah. That's or Sheriff Jumps to go with those guys. So. Yeah, I think there's a clear path to getting there, but in tournaments, like you got to get a little funky sometimes. So, playing some of these like random guys, can you feel the love tonight? 100%. Can you find some of these guys that are going to be under 10%, that are going to, win you $10,000? I think somebody like a Keanu Dawes, a Brennan Howson, as ugly as that sounds. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of teams to beat, and there's gonna be a lot of lineups that look the same. But can you get a 4 to 5x out of somebody that isn't going to be used by a lot of people? And that's kind of the key to doing this thing. So appreciate everybody out there. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons. We'll be back soon. Good luck to everyone tonight. I will be praying for y'all to get second place here. I'll be rooting for myself to get first. Sorry for you guys out there that have to settle for second place. But show us those green screens over on One and Done CBB. And one last thing to do. Let's get this bread.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.